Pretty amazing how trains are running all the time, back and forth. And it takes two rails to hold them. Aren't those amazing, those railroad tracks? There's two of them, but if you look off way in the distance, it looks like they meet. It looks like they're one, but they're really not. And I'm so glad to be back in the book of Romans in our study on Sunday mornings. And Romans 9 and 10 remind me of the two rails that you're looking at here. Romans 9 talks about God's absolute sovereignty in bringing sinners to himself through the good news of the gospel. And Romans 10 reminds me of the other rail that talks about our responsibility to believe in Jesus. And if we don't believe, it's not God's fault for not choosing us. It's our fault for not trusting. And I don't know how those two truths go together, just like these two rails don't really go together, but they hold up the train, and the train can't run without having both rails at the same time. And when we read the Bible, chapter 9 might seem contradictory to chapter 10. Like, how can God be totally sovereign and yet say that we're responsible? And if we're responsible, then it sounds like we're sovereign, not God. How do you put those two together? And I don't know. No one knows how you put the mystery of God's awesome control of everything together with our responsibility for everything in our lives. And yet, off in the distance, by faith, we trust that God knows. So if you're having a hard time reconciling God's sovereignty with our responsibility, remember what Charles Spurgeon said years ago when someone asked him, how do you reconcile God's sovereignty and man's free will? Spurgeon said, you don't reconcile friends. So, my friends, I hope today you lean on God and you know that He has given you choices. And somehow, as you trust in Him, God will work it all out in eternity for your good and for His glory.